Hello, Internet. It's been a moment since I've appeared on here. I have a few things I want to talk about, a few things we ought to catch up on, I think, because it's been a moment. I don't post much, nor do I intend to post much in the future. Therefore, there's some things that we need to talk about. But before we do, I want to talk about some books that I recently got. As you guys know, I'm a big time reader, I'm a big fan of literature, and there's one particular series of books that I've never been a big fan of, and that is Lord of the Rings. As you can see, the title of this one is a bit different. That is because this is the Spanish edition of Lord of the Rings. You know, I have never been a big fan of fantasy settings or environments. When I tried to read this growing up, when I was, in the demographic that it's more geared toward, I found the prose kind of boring. I did not find the setting intriguing. But now that I am learning Spanish, I find this book much more compelling, and I think it's because the reading level that I'm at is much more suited toward the audience that this is geared for. When I was like 13, 14 trying to read this book, I was just like, this I don't know if the prose just wasn't sufficiently complex, or what was going on. I just didn't find it compelling outside of my distaste for fantasy settings, which I'll get to in a moment. But at that time, I found books that were relatively simple, relatively easy to read, but maybe compelling philosophically, like The Stranger, for example. Much more, much more fulfilling to read. And then books like Oliver Twist, a Tale of Two Cities, things like this. In the realm of literature, it has always been difficult to grab me unless like what I'm reading either has really interesting ideas or really dense text, or kind of plays with the medium. Like in A Scanner Darkly, minor spoilers, but not so much. One of the things they do is, as the book progresses, is they kind of like bend the way that the narrative is expressed, at like literally dipping into German instead of English to like mess with the perception of the reader, to also illustrate the fragile and damaged state of mind that the character, as they experience this continuous downward spiral, this drug induced crazy world that they're living in. It does weird things with the written word, even by switching languages, in order to communicate that to the reader. And I like stuff like that. I like the postmodern stuff, or if it's not postmodern, I like the text to be really dense. If it's not so dense and it's kind of simple to read, I like there to be, philosophical elements. And so growing up, Lord of the Rings just wasn't my thing. And moreover, on the subject of fantasy books, fantasy settings in general, there's something about them, I just don't find them compelling. I just don't think they're all that interesting. But because I enjoy reading Spanish so much, this book is much more fun for me to read. And as a result of that, I've been having a good time with it, because what I don't get out of the setting, I can get out of analyzing the grammar, out of experiencing these words that I have learned, out of thinking in Spanish as well. Some other books I have here. This is, for some reason, this is called Guide of the Galactic Highway in Spanish. I have no idea why, but it's called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in English. Obviously, classic book for adolescents, and as an adolescent in Spanish, I have to read it. Um, this book, this book as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the video, El Túnel, is quite interesting, quite absurdist. I sort of talked about Albert Camus' The Stranger, which I also have in Spanish over there. I have El Extranjero, um, the Spanish edition of the book, which is quite good. There are some words I'm getting hung up on trying to read it, but in general, pretty comprehensible for me. Very, very good translation. Have not read the French edition yet. I will get to that language in the future. But in comparison to the English version, it's quite faithful. It's very good. And then here, I have a quite simple book in German, which costs me quite a bit to read. It's I don't know, mentally I'm not quite at the level I need to be in order to fully read this, but this is The Little Prince in German, and obviously, classic story that everybody should read when they're learning a language, because it is well done, but with very simple words. So those are some of the books that I'm working on right now, and now I sort of want to segue. I want to sort of segue into the normies. Ah, yes, the normies of the internet. The people that, man, I haven't made a YouTube video in so long. This is so hard to do, but the people of the internet that are not accustomed to the internet, because when I was growing up, everybody was skeptical of everything they saw online, and we really had it like pushed into our brains that we should be that way. But I feel like nowadays nobody is really anymore. Actually, maybe I should re-record this segment and then just focus on that and then put it at the start of the video. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.